Last week we covered till verse number 6, so we'll cover the verse from verse number 7 today. So in the first three verses, Krishna spoke about the origins of Bhagavad Gita, how actually this knowledge is not new. This knowledge is originally given by Krishna to sun god Vivaswan millions of years ago. And this knowledge is coming down in a line of teachers starting from Krishna. Starting from line of teachers starting from ages. It's not anything new. This knowledge is ancient knowledge, and again Krishna revived this knowledge and re-established, and using Arjuna as the instrument. It was given again 5,000 years back before the beginning of Kali Yuga, towards the end of Dwapara Yuga. And why does Krishna give it again? Because the knowledge which was originally given millions of years ago seems to have lost, meaning over the period of time, the knowledge is coming in a parampara, but it seems like the message has changed, or the message as it is not there anymore. So Krishna has to come again and revive the knowledge. And who is the most eligible candidate for hearing this knowledge? It's also mentioned. Krishna says, I am giving this knowledge to you because you are a friend and a devotee. A friend is non-envious. A devotee is very receptive to knowledge. So these are the qualities for one to understand Bhagavad Gita. One has to accept Krishna as his as God, and should not be envious of God. Meaning, many people in this world question the existence of Krishna, and so many because of the envy that's there in the heart. So one who is above and over of that, they can actually understand the knowledge of Gita. And in the next section of verses 4 to 8, Krishna talks about the position of Krishna. He is not like one of us. He is beyond all of us. His transcendental position. So Krishna reveals his transcendental position, meaning his birth and going away from this world are not like ours. For he appears in his own transcendental form, which is unborn and never dies. For Krishna, it is like just like sun. Sun appears to have set in the evening and appears to arise in the morning, but that is from our naked eye. But actually sun is always there. It is only earth moving around it that makes it appear as if it has sun has arisen and sun has set. So similarly, Krishna always exists, but his pastimes happen in a certain period of time. So we need to understand that Krishna's appearance is not like our appearance. And he also talks about his purpose, why he comes. So that is today's discussion. So let's open the verse number 7. So these are very important verses. Verse number 6 is covered. What does it say? Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So many important points here. Krishna's body is not like ours. Krishna's body is transcendental, divyam. Ajopisam, avyayatma, without deterioration. Our body goes through deterioration, right? All of us have taken birth, our body grows and slowly dwindles, and then finally it merges into the Panchabhutas. But his body, Krishna's body, is not like that. It's transcendental. It's not deteriorated by material elements. Although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my transcendental form. So he is the Lord, but still appears. Generally, people appear in this world because of their karma. They are forced to appear in this world until they completely uh, get rid of their karma. They keep on appearing in this world. But Krishna's case is different. Krishna, he is the Lord of all living entities. He is the supreme Lord of all that exists. But still, he appears in every millennium in his original transcendental form. So he always appears in his form. It's not like our material body. Right? This is interesting. So we already studied this. So Krishna, when he appears, he is always Navayavanamcha, meaning he's always like a fresh youth forever. When he appeared, when he was fighting the war, when he was, the Kurukshetra war was happening, he's already 87 years old, but still he appears like a 18-year-old boy, 16 or 18-year-old boy. So that's how he appears, because he is Navayavanamcha. Yeah, let's come to today's verse. Verse number 7. Yada yada hi dharmasya ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानं सधर्मस्य tadatmanam srijamyaham. So these are this one and the next verse, these two are very, very famous verses. We all have heard about this. Yada yada hi dharmasya means whenever and wherever there is glanir bhavati, means discrepancies. Discrepancies means any problems in the established religion. Abhyudhanasya dharmasya means I appear at that time to tadatmanam srijamyaham, to re-establish that religion. So whenever and wherever there is decline in religious practice or descendant of Bharata and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. So here the reason for Krishna's incarnations, or Krishna or his incarnations, the appearance reason is given. He comes whenever there is decline in religious practice. Because why does he care about religious practice? Because ultimately the whole purpose of this material existence is what? It is to help us understand that actually we don't belong here, and the practice of religion is meant to take us back to Krishna, or Vaikunta, or the spiritual planets. So as a loving father, he keeps coming again and again because he cares for his children. Just like suppose our children are playing, other children have come because they are children. Once in a while there is a chance for them to come into a conflict, fight, argue, and they might hurt each other, right? So immediately parents would uh, interfere, so that again the whole purpose of bringing the children is to make them happy and keep them, keep good relation with, giving friendship, and right. So when that purpose is not being met, immediately the parent gets involved and corrects the situation and make sure again the situation is better, right? So similarly, the whole purpose of material existence is that one would ultimately realize the futility of material living in the material world and practice spiritual process, right? Like chanting, hearing, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam. So various ways to connect with God, right? So practice spirituality and go back to God. So when there is predominance of irreligion, meaning people do not understand and misguided and misdirected, then again to fulfill the original plan for the existence of material world, Krishna himself, or through his incarnations, he comes to this world and re-establishes the religion and helps them again to progress spiritually so that they again ultimately realize the purpose of life. But this is what he cares, right? So that the societies run smoothly and they make progress spiritually. Yeah. So there are many important words, so we'll just go over. The word Srizami is significant here. Srizami cannot be used in the sense of creation because, according to the previous verse, there is no creation of Lord's form or body, since all the forms are eternally existent. So Lord's form eternally exists. So he is in one place, he comes to a different place, that's all. So therefore, Srizami means Lord manifests himself as he is. Although the Lord appears on schedule, namely at the end of Dwapar Yuga of the 1228th millennium of 7th Manu in one day of Brahma, he has no obligation to adapt to such rules and regulations because he is completely free to act in many ways as he wills. He therefore appears in his own will whenever there is predominance of irreligiosity and a disappearance of true religion. Principles of religion are laid down in the Vedas, and any discrepancy in the matter of properly executing the rules of Vedas makes one irreligious. In the Bhagavatam, it is stated that such principles are the laws of Lord. Only the Lord can manufacture a system of religion. The Vedas are also accepted as originally spoken by the Lord himself to Brahma from within his heart. Therefore, the principles of Dharma are the direct orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. This is a statement from Bhagavatam. So religion cannot be manufactured by human. Many people think a religion exists so that there is morality in this world. That is complete nonsense. Clearly here it's mentioned the system of religion is given by, or the codes given by God. And when one follows them, it helps them actually to go back to God. So these principles are clearly indicated throughout the Bhagavad Gita. The purpose of Vedas is to establish such principles under the order of the Supreme Lord. And the Lord directly orders at the end of Gita that the highest principle of religion is to surrender unto him only and nothing more. So the highest religion or highest practice of religion is to completely surrender oneself to God. That's what we realize ultimately. This is the real purpose of life. So the Vedic principles push one towards a complete surrender unto him, and whenever such principles are disturbed by the demonic, the Lord appears. So from the Bhagavatam, we understand that the Lord Buddha is the incarnation of Krishna. So Bhagavatam talks about the incarnation of Buddha as well, who appeared when materialism was rampant and materialists were using the pretext of authority of the Vedas. Although there are certain restrictive rules and regulations regarding animal sacrifice for particular purposes in the Vedas, people of demonic tendency still took to animal sacrifice without reference to the Vedic principles. So about 2500 years ago, Lord Buddha has appeared. At that time, the reason for his appearance was that people in the name of religion were uh, using religion for sense gratification, meaning there was predominant practice of animal sacrifice. And and that too in the name of religion. So they are actually using the religion to use it for the purpose of their sense gratification and ultimately to eat the meat. So that was completely, and these brahmanas were eating meat, and to stop that, to stop this very predicament situation where animals are being sacrificed left and right in the name of religion, Lord Buddha has come and he has taught ahimsa paramo dharma, to be non-violent to animals, so as the highest religion, because that was the need of the hour, because um, people are so downgraded, right, at the time. So they had to be stopped from this animal sacrifice, because that's not that's not the primary teaching at all. Not even a teaching. So the purpose of animal sacrifice given in Vedas in the previous ages, it is allowed to be performed, is to give them a fresh body. So the yajnadhikaris are so powerful. When they're able to perform this yajna with proper chanting of the mantras, the animal will be sacrificed, and before everybody's eye, the animal also gets a fresh body. But in Kali Yuga, that is completely not recommended. It's not for Kali Yuga people, because in Kali Yuga the Brahmanas are not as powerful, and so it is completely condemned to actually practice animal sacrifice as part of religious practices. Yeah. The principles of Bhagavad Gita were spoken to Arjuna, and for that matter to other highly elevated persons, because he was highly advanced compared to ordinary persons in other parts of the world. So if you look at the teachings of you know Jesus or Muhammad, they're far more very basic principles, like thou shall not kill, uh, thou shall not steal. So these are very very basic instructions that were given to mm, the by Jesus to his disciples. The reason being, the people at that time, at least the students that Jesus had, were very low grade people, like fishermen who were you know, very much adherent to practicing religion, and you know uh, like animal sacrifice or stealing or killing each other. So the level of teachings were like that. But when you compare that with Arjuna being the student, Arjuna is already very much aware of all the basic religious principles. So the teachings to Arjuna that were given by Krishna were far more advanced. So if the teachings given by Jesus to his students was like fifth grade class lessons, what Arjuna got were like college lessons, right? So that makes a lot of difference. So that's the reason many people ask, if there is one God, why there are so many different types of religions and different types of books to follow? The reason is simple, because the students are at different levels. So every student, according to his level, the knowledge has to be given. And even Jesus himself told that I have much more to give, but you are not ready for it. So I cannot give at this time. So it means that Jesus himself is a great teacher. He is definitely a highly self-realized soul. However, the students were not ready for receiving those lessons. Just like a fifth grade student cannot receive a college lesson, because that's where his knowledge is. So similarly, that's why there are different types of knowledge given by God at different times to different students according to their level. Any questions so far on this, the purpose of appearance of the Lord? So he appears whenever there is decline in the religious practice, the predominant rise of irreligion, just like Buddha had come. And similarly, every incarnation has. So when Ravana was ferociously dominating all the three worlds, Lord has come as the incarnation of Lord Ramchandra and completely stopped Ravana from any more religious practice, because he was almost killing all the rishis, all the demigods, and people are not able to peacefully live in this world. So he had to come and re-establish the religion. Okay, if not, we'll go to the next verse.
So, Prabhu.
Sure, Prabhu.
Correct. So, Lord, when because the millennium is so big, there might be always an incident where dharma always goes up, but then at times the dharma and people following the religious practice sometimes goes down. So it's may not, I mean, I'm not trying to say that Lord will never come, but is it practical to expect that Lord will always come when religious practices always goes down? So
Yeah,
I'm
okay, let
just,
me clarify.
yeah.
So, yeah, Lord may not directly come all the time. Lord can send his capable, children who can actually help the situation. That's how Muhammad or Jesus or all these powerful acharyas, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarka, Vishnu Swami, all these are powerful teachers who have come time and again to re-establish, to help. Lord is like power source, right? Like when you have, uh, so electricity is generated in one place and it is transmitted through poles to ultimately land in the home, right? So he can directly come, he's the power source, or he can, the acharyas can also be part of that mission to come, help the people. So, so after every millennium, in every age, he comes once for sure. But in the meantime, generally he sends his children who are actually capable of bringing people to God. Right? All the acharyas, that's where they come. You see in 1100, 1300, all these great, many wonderful devotees have come to teach. Santa Tukaram, Mirabai, these are all wonderful devotees who all actually inspired many people to take to the path of, take to this path of spirituality and ultimately achieve the perfection. Yeah. But when there is a need for God to come, God comes. He decides whether he should send one of his children, one of his powerful acharya, or he should come by himself.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. And for example, Lord has come for this age in the about 500 years back as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Right? So we are not accepting because we treat him as God. We accept him as God because the scriptures say that. Bhagavatam says that. Many Puranas say that. Padma Purana, Vayu Purana. So we'll discuss about avatars actually in the next verse. This is a beautiful verse again. Pavitranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapana ardhaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Can anyone read for me?
Sure, Prabhu. I can read. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium.
Yeah. Here Krishna says, I myself appear millennium after millennium to do few things. What are the few things he says? To deliver the pious, to actually deliver the pious, those who are devoted to him, to annihilate the miscreants, to stop those who are being irreligious and you know who need to be eliminated so that the pious can thrive, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. Same thing as mentioned in the previous verse. So by doing these two, he re-establishes the principles of religion. I myself appear millennium after millennium. You see, because he comes because he loves us. So very clear. Huh? Actually, it is mentioned the real purpose is to deliver the pious. As part of that, just like when you, so now summer is coming, all of us want to plant some flower tree, flowers, plants which give flowers or vegetables. So as part of that maintenance, every day we water, and also we do one more thing. We actually remove weeds time and again, because if the weeds thrive, the plant doesn't grow, right? The purpose is to thrive the plants. So as part of that, so similarly, the purpose is to thrive the pious. Although everybody is a child of God, the other children who are not ready to realize the purpose of life, they have to be, they have to be put in control so that those people who want to be delivered, they can be delivered. So it's to check the miscreants so that they don't become a disturbance. For example, when Ravana was there, he was like going to Indra, defeating him, going to Yamaraj, and Yamaraj actually didn't fight with him because on the order of Lord, because Brahma has given a boon to Ravana. So he actually, Yamaraj is a great devotee of Lord. He actually just agreed to be subdued. And he would kill so many rishis who are practicing peacefully spiritual life in the forest. He would just, because of his power and energy and the powers that he had, he would just go about rampaging everyone in all the mullokas, means the three worlds. He would create a lot of disturbance. So it is necessary for Lord to incarnate and annihilate those miscreants so that the rest of the people can continue to practice spiritual life. So Lord says, I myself appear millennium after millennium to re-establish the religion and to deliver the pious and to remove the miscreants. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Krishnadas Kaviraj, the following verse in Madhya Lila is given, which summarizes the principles of incarnation. The avatar of or incarnation of Godhead descends from the kingdom of God for material manifestation, and the particular form of the personality of Godhead whoso descends is called an incarnation or avatar. Such incarnations are situated in the spiritual world, the kingdom of God. When they descend to the material creation, they assume the name avatar. So all these incarnations exist in the spiritual world. For example, Lord Ramachandra exists always in the spiritual world. He has a planetary, he has a spiritual world, and he comes from there temporarily to actually help correct the situation in the material world. So when he comes from there, it's like a movement here, because time scales very differently in different places. In the spiritual world, time is eternal, so there is no uh, time is inconspicuous. Time doesn't exist there. In the material world, everything is run by time. We have a fixed lifetime. Everything is within a bounded setup. But in the spiritual world, it's not like that. It's a time doesn't pass. People who live there, they live forever there. There are various kinds of avatars, such as Purusha avatars, Guna avatars, Leela avatars, Saktavesh avatars, Manvantara avatars, and Yuga avatars. Purusha avatars, again, incarnations are of various types. Purusha avatar is is the three Purushas, which is Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Kshirodakshay Vishnu, and Karanodakshay Vishnu. So these are the incarnations. Basically, uh, Lord, Lord's incarnation uh, to for the purpose of creation. So you would have seen in South India there are many temples of Lord where Lord would be sleeping on Anantasesh, right, in a reclining posture. So those are called Purushavatar incarnations. So Lord would be lying on the Anantasesha, right, and Mother Lakshmi would be massaging his feet. So that form of the Lord in Ranganath temple or um, many nice temples in South India. I don't recollect the names, but there are many temples where Lord would be reclining in this posture. So that is called Purusha Avatar. Purusha Avatar, primary Purusha Avatar is called Karanadaksha Vishnu, which is the source of all creation, material existence. And then once the material world is created, one material universe is created, Lord again enters that universe as Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and he would be holding all the planetary systems from the bottom, by staying under the waters of causal ocean. From his navel comes a lotus flower on which Lord Brahma takes birth, and he re-engineers the material manifestation, where he creates the um, planetary system, 14 planetary system. He's already, the material is already there. Brahma is an engineer, just like all the earthly elements are there. A construction engineer just puts them together to make a building. So similarly, all the ingredients are already given by Mahavishnu. Now it's just the restructuring purpose for which uh, Brahma is in charge. He's the first living entity in the universe, and he creates this material universe, the 14 planetary system. His purpose is to sustain this material world, and time and again there will be partial destructions. Like of after every day of Brahma, there is a partial destruction. Again, recreates, and again finally. So Lord has first created these material universes from his pores of the body. All the universes come out, and he enters each universe as Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and after that he enters, and then manifestation happens. The worlds are created by Brahma, and then in each world the living entities are populated, and within each living entity again Lord enters as as which incarnation? What is the last one? Karanodaksha Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Kshirodaksha Vishnu. So Lord finally enters in each jiva as in his heart, right? All of us have Paramatma in our heart. So that Paramatma is actually an incarnation of Purusha Avatar. So the same Lord manifests in so many ways. All the incarnations are of one Supreme Lord, which is Krishna. But they manifest in various ways for various purposes. And then Gunavataras. Gunavatars are the three gunas: Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, and Tamo Guna. For Sattva Guna, the incarnation is Lord Vishnu within this universe, right? And then for Rajo Guna, Lord's The in charge incarnation is Lord Shiva. For sorry, for Rajoguna it is Lord Brahma, and for Tamoguna it is Lord Shiva. So the same Lord again takes the form of the three gunas. And this Lord Shiva is Shambhu Tattva. He is a very different Tattva, just like a milk converted into curd, right? Almost as good as milk, but it's a mixture of some some element, so that makes it curd. But Brahma is a jiva like us, a jiva who is empowered to take the role of Lord Brahma. Brahma is Jiva Tattva, Lord Shiva is Shambhu Tattva, which is a transformation of Vishnu Tattva, and Vishnu himself comes for maintenance purpose, which is a Vishnu Tattva, which is for the mode of goodness. And then Leela avatars. Leela avatars are avatars that come to perform wonderful Leelas, like Narsimha avatar. He appears and performs this Leela where he protects his devotee Prahlad, and Kurma avatar again comes for a certain purpose. Matsya avatar. So in this way, there are many avatars that come and again, time and again, and perform some great mysterious leelas, and they actually go back again. Saktyavesh avatars. Shaktavesh avatars again are empowered jivas. Some of the living entities like us, means a simple jiva like us, can be empowered to perform extraordinary leelas. To for example, in Acharya can be empowered. Ramanujacharya is considered a powerful Shaktavesh avatar, and Parshuram is not Vishnu Tattva. He is actually Jiva Tattva. He is like a Jiva like us, but he was empowered to perform great lila. Lord Buddha is not Vishnu Tattva again. Lord Buddha is a Jiva like us. He is empowered to perform certain pastimes. Lord Krishna or Lord Rama is not like um, uh, Lord Buddha. Lord Rama is Vishnu Tattva. Vishnu Tattva means self same Supreme Lord comes to perform certain pastimes. Right? Lord Krishna is again Vishnu Tattva, completely Vishnu only. But Lord Parshuram, when he comes, he is not the same as other like Lord Rama or Lord Krishna. Very different. He is only a jiva empowered to perform a great work, right? So there are differences in each incarnations. So not everybody is same. When Matsya or Kurma or Narsingha, they're all Vishnu Tattvas. They are, so that's why we don't see Lord Buddha's photo in the temple halls. We see Narsingha avatar, we see Rama, we see Krishna, we see Balaram. These are Vishnu Tattvas. We don't see we don't see any other jivas who are empowered to act as very powerful in this world. They are also considered God, but they're not God. So that is Shakti Avesh avatar. Shakti Avesh means specially empowered with certain powers. They are empowered with certain powers only. Not, for example, Buddha is considered to be empowered with knowledge of with power of knowledge. Manvantar avatars like Manu and so these are people to promulgate the population, right? Manvanta avatars, from whom all the Manus come. In every millennium they come to actually generate, to basically to generate generations of people. And Yoga avatars. In every Yoga, Lord comes to teach the Yoga Dharma. In this Yuga, the Lord has incarnated as Sri Chaitanya to teach the purpose of this age, which is Nama Sankirtan, right? So it is, so this Bhagavad Gita only gives very glimpse. It's a very basic book. Now in 11th canto of Bhagavatam, it talks in great detail how Lord comes in various ages to teach various legends. See, this is all about Treta Yuga. In Satya Yuga, Lord is glorified by the name Hamsa, Suparna, Vaikuntha, Dharma, Yogeshwara, Amala, Ishvara, Purusha, Avyakta, and Paramatma. In Treta Yuga, the Lord appears with a red complexion. So, embodying the knowledge of worship by sacrifice of Brahma, which is contained in Rig, Samar, Yajur Vedas, the symbols are laden, spoon, and other implements of sacrifice. In Treta Yuga, those members of human society who are fixed in religiosity and are sincerely interested in achieving the absolute truth worship Lord Hari, who contains within himself all the demigods. The Lord is worshipped by the rituals of sacrifice taught in the three Vedas. So, sacrifice is the method of achieving God in Treta Yuga. In Dwapar Yuga, the Supreme Lord appears with a dark blue complexion, which is Krishna, wearing yellow garments. The Lord's transcendental body is marked in this incarnation with Srivatsa and other distinctive ornaments, and he manifests his personal weapons. My dear King, in Dwapar Yuga, men who desire to know the Supreme Lord, who is the Supreme Enjoyer, worship him in the mood of honoring a great king. So the temple worship is the primary method of religion for Dwapar Yuga. So every yuga has, so in the previous yuga it is sacrifice, great sacrifices, Aswamedha Yajna and many other such yajnas were performed. In Dwapar Yuga, it is the worship of the Lord in the temple is the process. It's simplified. You see, the process is being simplified. In Satya Yuga, the process of the process of religion is meditation. But when when the yuga passed from Satya Yuga people lived long and they were able to practice meditation for a long time, for many hundreds of years, and they achieved perfection. But in Treta Yuga, people are not that capable. The capacity has reduced already. So now the people are recommended to actually. So in Satya Yuga, people would meditate for thousands of years and then they get the darshan of Lord from their heart. Right? They would see the Paramatma directly before them. But in Treta Yuga, the method was simplified. Just by the performance of yajna, Lord would appear out of that yajna as Yajna Purush and would bestow the people who had performed the sacrifice. Of course, you have to perform with the right brahmanas, and the right process has to be followed perfectly. When Lord would directly appear just by the performance of yajna. Dwapar Yuga, people are not even capable of doing what the people of the previous yuga have done. They cannot. They do not have pure ingredients. They don't have such great brahmanas who can perform sacrifices. So the process was further simplified. So Lord is directly available in the temple hall. You go worship with the Lord, and the same, you don't need to wait for Lord to appear in the sacrifice. Lord is directly there in the temple, so you directly worship Lord, and that Lord is as powerful as the original Lord in the Vaikuntha. So the darshan of Lord is always available in Dwapara Yuga. Okay? So in this, temple worship is mentioned as the process of achieving perfection. Let's quickly go through this. So in Kali Yuga, in this way, people of the in Kali Yuga also people worship the Supreme Lord by following the various regulations of the revealed scriptures. Now kindly hear of this from me. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting of to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. So, this is an indication of the incarnation of current days, which we treat this personality as Lord Chaitanya, because he has actually manifested all that is mentioned here. He would always be chanting the holy name, and when he was there in this world, people were so totally surcharged with bhakti. Yeah, and then further details are given. I'm just giving just a high level view. So the process is further simplified in Kali Yuga. Of course, if you can't even go to temple, just chant the name of Lord and he is accessible through his name. You see how simplified it is? So that's why we stress we should chant the name of, holy name every day. That's the most powerful method for Kali Yuga. Right? Just like for different diseases, there are different medicines, right? Although all medicines are available in a medical shop, you don't get any medicine. You only get the medicine for your specific problem that you have, right? So similarly, although all these processes are there, temple worship is there, sacrifices can be performed, and meditation can be done. All those are valid processes. But to achieve perfection, we need to practice the thing that really helps us achieve the purpose. So for this is that purpose is fulfilled by the process of chanting as mentioned in these scriptures here. Those who are yeah, those who are actually advanced in knowledge are able to appreciate the essential value of this age of Kali. Such enlightened persons worship Kali Yuga because in this fallen age, all perfection of life can easily achieved by the performance of Sankirtan. Sankirtan means chanting the name of Lord. Sankirtan. Kirtan means singing the glories of Lord. Nama Sankirtan means chanting of the name of God. You see, there is something more interesting giving. I wanted to share that here. Indeed, there is no higher possible gain for embodied souls forced to wander throughout the material world than the Supreme Lord's Sankirtan movement, by which one can attain the supreme peace and free oneself from the cycle of repeated birth and death. You see, we are so fortunate. All of you are so fortunate. All of us are so fortunate that we have taken the right process as described in the scripture. There is no higher possible gain for embodied souls forced to wander throughout the material world than the Supreme Lord Sankirtan movement. You see, such evidence is there in the scriptures. My dear king, the inhabitants of Satyuga and other ages eagerly desire to take birth in this age of Kali. Since in this age there will be many devotees of the Supreme Lord Narayana. These devotees will appear in various places, but will will be especially numerous in South India. O master of men, in the age of Kali, those persons who drink the waters of the holy river of Dravida Desha, such as Tamraparni, Kritamala, Payasvini, the extremely pious Kaveri, and the Pratichi Mahanadi, will almost all be pure-hearted devotees of the Supreme Lord of Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva. So, being born in India is a great boon because all of us take to this process far more easily compared to Western bodies. O king, one who has given up all the material duties and has taken full shelter of lotus feet of Mukunda, who offers shelter to all, is not indebted to the demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, even one's forefathers who has passed away. Since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme, one who has surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. If you engage completely in the process of devotion service, 100%, then you have no duties to perform to any demigod or great sages. Otherwise, we are all indebted to all these people in this world. So we should worship all of them. But if we have taken to the process of bhakti seriously, that is, that's not an obligation because you directly worship the Lord in every way. Yeah, I think these are beautiful verses, right? All of you agree?
Yes, Prabhu.
Gives
Prabhu,
so much
one
conviction
question.
on the process we follow. We are not following because we like to follow we we are part of this ISKCON that teaches this Sankirtan. No, we are actually abiding by the scripture. Right? Yeah.
Yes,
Go
Prabhu.
ahead, Prabhu. Yeah. Go ahead.
So, Prabhu, what is if I mean, I understand Sankirtan and we also do Japa, what would be, we can call it out a subtle difference or specific difference between Japa versus Sankirtan as a whole big thing? So, how we can differentiate and we can say,
Mhm. And japa is primarily for one's own purification. Japa, when you chant the name of Lord repeatedly, it's like name of Krishna um, is like a sun, right? If suppose there is in India, right? Sometimes you see roads are all dirty with so many things. Just as soon as sun rises, all the dirt would vanish because sun would evaporate. Like that, when we chant the name of Lord, it would cleanse the mind, just like a cleansing agent, right? Just purifies the mind completely. Even if you know it or not, whether you know the potency of the name is there. It has all the power to cleanse the mind. So the purpose of japa is to cleanse the mind. But sankirtan is chanting the same name but loudly. Now, what happens when you chant loudly? All the living entities around you, all the plants, people, all these people also get benefited by hearing the name. Not only yourself, you would also benefit others. So it is the same potency. Now it expanded to outside beyond you, your own benefit, right? So if you cannot do every day, not every day it is possible for us to go out and chant the name of Lord, right? We, in our temple, we used to go before Corona restrictions, we used to go out on every weekend. On Saturday evenings, we used to go out and chant in the Seattle area. Now we don't. But the purpose is to actually share. Whoever hears, whether they hear with good intent or bad intent, the power of name is there. So that would help cleanse. Their process would start. Their spiritual life would start, and they eat some prasadam. We share them some prasadam. Immediately the process, if they appreciate, immediately they would make one step forward in their spiritual journey, right? And then slowly they may get interested and they learn more about Bhagavad Gita and other things. So Sankirtan not is to benefit not just oneself but to benefit everybody around you, whoever hears the name.
yes, bro.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
that's the only difference between the two.
Yeah, thank you, bro. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Really.
So now we discussed all the various incarnations, right? All appearing on schedule all over the universe. Why would Lord take all this trouble to appear in so many ways? Simple reason, because He loves us. He loves us and He wants us to be back with Him. That's why He keeps sending so many people. He kept sending in the form of books. He keeps sending so many things so that ultimately we realize the futility of existing in the material world and learn to go back to Him. So that's the simple purpose of our existence. Lord Krishna descends for the specific purpose of mitigating the anxieties of pure devotees who are very anxious to see Him in His original Vrindavan pastimes. Therefore, the primary purpose of Krishna avatar is to satisfy His unalloyed devotees. Yeah. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, the verses we read just now, the incarnation in the age of Kali is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who spread the worship of Krishna by the Sankirtan movement and spread Krishna consciousness throughout India. He predicted that this culture of Sankirtan would be broadcast all over the world from town to town and village to village. Now we see the same process of congregation chanting is practiced in all countries in the world. We see in US almost every state has temples ISKCON temples, uh, and so many American bodies, Indian bodies are taking even here. Not only here, in every country in Europe also has temples, and the Bhagavad Gita is being taught all over the world now, everywhere. Thousands of teachers are teaching all across. Lord Chaitanya, as the incarnation of Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is described secretly but not directly in the confidential parts of the revealed scripture, such as Upanishads, Mahabharata, and Bhagavatam. So um, he's indicated in all the scriptures. It's not that okay, we like this person and so we call him God. It is by the evidence of scriptures we say he is an incarnation. So the devotee of Lord Krishna are very much attracted by the Sankirtan movement of the Lord Chaitanya. This avatar of Lord does not kill the miscreants, but delivers them by his causeless mercy. By the way, I have shared one video about Lord Chaitanya's pastimes last week. Did anybody hear them in our class link, WhatsApp group I shared? Did anybody by chance hear the class I shared? Okay, I think none of you. Please hear that. It will give you an understanding who is Lord Chaitanya. Well, of course, I just discussed the childhood pastimes. Uh, just like Krishna's leelas are very attractive to enchanting to the heart. Similarly, Lord Chaitanya's leelas are also extremely enchanting. He is called Channa Avatar, and that's why he is not so well known because it's a very confidential incarnation. Because in Kali Yuga, the tendency of people is to claim themselves to be God. So many people claim themselves to be God, even though they're not God. Right? So many Babas, they claim themselves to be God. But when Lord Chaitanya has appeared as Krishna, as the incarnation for this age, he does not call himself God. Instead, he always, ask everybody to actually worship Lord Krishna. He is Krishna himself, but because people of Kali Yuga are so low grade, they don't understand spirituality and they take anybody and everybody as God. So he hasn't claimed himself to be God. He actually showed that the worship of Krishna is the right way to achieve perfection. Right?
Prabhuji,
Hmm. Yes, Mataji.
yes, I have this question about many gurus and babas claiming to be God.
Hmm.
So, among the devotees of Sri Ravi Shankar, there is a belief that he does not say that, but it is
Mhm.
about his devotees that he is an incarnation of Krishna. How far do you think it is true? And I mean,
Yeah, let me answer. So, any incarnation of God is already mentioned in the scriptures. So, there is no evidence of Sri Ravi Shankar as God. 100% sure I am. So, uh, you hear the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya when they are extraordinary. Lord Krishna's childhood pastimes, they're extraordinary. We cannot compare anybody to be God, right? So that's the problem in Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga, so many people claim themselves to be God, or their followers would claim instead. Uh, you know, so first question you should ask is, show us few verses that show him to be God. For example, I can send you a list of 20 to 30 verses that indicate that Lord Chaitanya is God in various Puranas, by his name, by his where he is. So the incarnation is described in the scriptures beforehand. For example, Lord Buddha, even though he's a Shaktavas avatar, he's not like a Vishnu Tattva, but it is described in Bhagavatam, which was given far ahead before, like 5,000 years back itself, Bhagavatam was given. In that itself, Lord's incarnation as Buddha has been mentioned. It said Buddha will come. It didn't say Buddha has come. Buddha will come in in this place called Gaya, and his purpose is this. He is going to, his parents are this, like that. Everything is mentioned. So the next incarnation is Kalki only at the end of Kali Yuga, which is about, still we have 4,25,000 years to go. So until then, there is no incarnation of God directly. So any claims in between are, mostly just imaginations of people who are, who are following. Even there is a person who claims to be Kalki avatar right now. That's not even true. So that's the problem in Kali Yuga. People do not refer to scripture, and anybody who can show some magic, some mysticism is claimed to be God, right? But it is not. It's not so. God is not so cheap. God is, all powerful, right? So if anybody claims, you can ask them, did this personality lifted Govardhan like Krishna did? There are so many, you know extraordinary pastimes Lord performs when he is here. He is not going to behave like anyone, any of us, um, right?
Mm-hmm.
There may be people with lot of power, mist, through practice of mysticism. You and me also can, can become great mystics. There are mystics who can become as small, as light as air. You can become like that if you practice just for 20 years a particular siddhi. You can also achieve that. There are people who do not eat for ever. They can just live under the sun. They can meditate under the sun and absorb the energies. It's another mystic potency. And there are people who can read the mind of people. They can just see you and they can read what you are thinking right now. So these are called mystic siddhis. Anima, lagima, prapti. These are all powers that anybody can, with sadhana, can achieve these perfections. But these are actually control on material nature. This is not what we want as devotees. This has nothing to do with spirituality. These are just powers people can achieve through manipulation of material nature. Just like, what is mobile phone? It is a way to communicate using waves, right? You call from here and you're able to call your mom in India, right? It's very easy. How is this whole process working? The control over material nature. That's what, through science. Science is very gross. So it does in a very gross way. You need to have a phone, you need to have cell towers. There is a kind of communication established within the two. Now, the same thing can be achieved through subtle, through exercising power or subtle nature. That's what mystics were doing before. They're also like scientists. Scientists are gross. These mystics are subtle scientists, where they can achieve control over, this nature in a subtler way. These people achieve in a gross way. For example, today we have cars which can transport us, or aeroplanes using fuel and machinery. We can, aerodynamics, it can help us transport from place A to place B. In the previous ages, people were controlling a pushpak viman with power of mantra, right? So there is no fuel. It's all, a pushpak viman can lift almost a village of people. When Lord Ramchandra took over the pushpak viman of Ravana, the whole Ayodhya was able to sit in that plane. It was humongous aeroplane, and it doesn't need fuel. It just lifts in the air and moves it. So there are great descriptions of this. So it's not some, oh, I can't relate to it. Is that even possible? You may say like that, but you know a person in an aborigine cannot relate to our cell phone also, because his knowledge cannot expand to that level. So similarly, we may not understand the culture and mysticism that existed in the previous years. So we cannot say, oh, how is it possible that, I can't believe that such a thing exists, that Pushpak Viman such a exists. Our Kali Yuga people are very limited. We can only control through material mechanisms. That's what we know. That's what we practice. But in the previous ages, that's not possible. In the previous years, everybody is more or less a mystic compared to the people of current age, right? So everybody in those days would appear like great incarnations for us, but they're not. None of them are. So mystic powers are no comparison to the powers of God, right? They're like, suppose it is very dark, the and night has set. You in India, I remember very well. We used to live in a village, and when I would walk from my tuition to my home in the evening, it was pitch dark, and we used to have this, small insects that that shine light, right? What are they called? Anybody knows the name?
Fireflies.
Yeah, fireflies. Correct. Thank you. So fireflies, right? It looks so bright, and we really get mesmerized. How come this fly was able to emit light? Because in our experience, no living entity can emit light like that. But that can only light up so little, right? But in the morning, when real light comes, when sun arises, all these fireflies do not emit any more light, because their light is no more any significant, right? Not any significant. Similarly, all these mystics appear like great people until we realize and understand from scriptures what are the potencies and powers of Lord, right? So like Krishna's descriptions in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. So these people who claim some mystics to be personal, incarnations of God, they do so because they are not aware of the actual uh, incarnations of God as described in the scriptures. They're like sentimental followers. They don't know anything, any real knowledge, uh, right? So they are driven by emotion and sentiment, and they don't accept any real scriptural evidences. That's why, even though they all appear to be very modern, scientific, actually it's based on a very shaky, shaky foundation. The practice of spirituality by many of these gurus, and they don't base on scriptures. So unfortunately, even though it appears attractive, very nice, initially it appears very peaceful to your mind, ultimately it doesn't really take you to the ultimate perfection. It's called These are called pacification methods. The pacification and purification. So when, suppose you have pain in the hand, you can take some tablet that would pacify you so that you don't feel the pain, because material world is so painful, and many times we like these tablets that can help us relieve the pain. So many of these spiritual practices given by all these gurus, so-called gurus, they're all pacification methods. Pacification means temporarily you will be relieved of all the anxieties of the material world, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the Krishna conscious process that we describe based on the scriptural evidence and the process given for the is not like that. It is actually a purification method. Purification means it's not just addressing the symptom, which is the pain. It actually goes to the root and solves the problem forever. You see the difference? It's so different. So while trying to cure, it may appear a little more painful. If a surgery is done to remove something from your body which is hurting you, it appears painful. So this process may appear a little more challenging, painful, all of those things. But this is a cleansing process. This is a purificatory process. Those are pacificatory processes. So we should be very careful about what process we practice, right? So fortunately we are you know I have, by the way, I tried all these other paths, many other paths. I tried Yagod Satsanga Society, Paramhams Yogananda. I tried even Art of Living. I tried Chinmaya Mission. I tried Vivekananda mission. So many missions I tried. I finally settled down here because what made me convinced about this process is the authority of the base. Right? The teachings given here are all based on evidence from scriptures, and scriptures are practiced for millennium. For thousands of years, people have been practicing these scriptures, and they are achieving results. Right? When you have such evidence, why not practice a method that is time and again tested instead of trying to uh, practice something that is superficial and with no real evidence of having worked in the past, right? So this process that we are trying to practice, there are people who have done this 10,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, 100 years ago, right? Sant Tukaram, all these great sages, we have time and again have seen this process having worked. So we should be careful about the kind of process we pick up.
Yes.
And for after having come here, I haven't looked back because I was completely convinced about by looking at the authority of the knowledge given in the scriptures. Is this making sense, Mataji?
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, I think my answer was a little longer. Yeah, let's read this verse. And should we read or should we stop? I think it's. Should we stop here?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, 6:20 already.
Yeah, Prabhu, I also gone through so many places, including Brahma Kumari and Chinmaya Mission, and I myself is from Pushti Margya, but
Oh yeah.
I never religiously followed the principles. Maybe I never studied or there was no guidance. But for me, the Discover Yourself course taught me the whatever is explained in the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam,
Hmm.
and that was very well explained in like 6 sessions, and I was very impressed to see the knowledge coming so quickly and so easily, and
Yep.
that was never explained anywhere. And most of the gurus, babas, like I also went to the Bellevue downtown where the Amma came, and I went to hug her, and they
Hmm.
said that once you hug, all your problems gone. But my problem
Still
not
there.
only stayed there, sometime it increased also, not because of her, but just because of my own karmic reaction. So
Exactly. So
uh,
we should know the signs. We should not.
yes, correct.
It's there is no magic pill for any of our problems. We have to work through our problems.
Absolutely, Prabhuji. And then I realized the science of the living entities, and then the purpose of the life. And that is very well explained here by Prabhupada and spread by his organization. So I just felt this is the mission for me to continue working. And this is the right path, which explains that there is no discrimination between the religion and then race and then eternity. It's all, everything is one, and that's where I was very impressed that this is the correct knowledge.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you. Anyone on second? I'll stop.